But
So it's
that's just the thing though. So if I literally no shit, like about a year ago, I literally walked up to a dude and I thought he was cute and I asked for his number and he ignored me and kept it pushing. And I didn't sit here and be like, oh, my feelings is hurt. I don't know if I want to approach a guy. Guess what? If I find another fine dude that I want to pursue, I'm gonna do the same shit because it is what it is. That's life. You get rejected. You don't just get rejected in relationships. You get rejected when you're applying for jobs. We've been rejected our entire life. So what's the difference? All you're gonna do is just keep getting me closer to where I need to go.
I got a question for KC. Does dating get harder for women the more successful and self-aware they become?
Absolutely. Um, and that speaks to a lot of things. I feel like it depends on the type of men that you date and who you choose to interact with. I think that's one thing that makes dating hard overall. And I'd also like to speak to the point that women were not oppressed overall as a unit. And I disagree with that because women weren't always allowed to go to college. Weren't always allowed to start businesses. The the Women Business Empowerment Act didn't start until 1988. So that goes to speak to a lot of history when it comes to women being independent in themselves. Outside of that, yes, dating gets harder with women the more successful they are because that dating pool gets smaller. It's a different, level or category of men that you're choosing to deal with, especially when it comes to finances and financial literacy and understanding. And I can only say that based on my experience as a successful woman, as a woman that has my own business, as a woman that has reached a certain level of success. And I found that it becomes harder depending on, who you're interacting with and depending on what type of man you're choosing to date. But I'm not going to say it's hard overall, but I do think you have to be more specific and intentional about who you give your time and access to, because with anybody, men or women, people could be looking at you as a come up or as an opportunity rather than looking for you, to date, to marry, or for love.
You know, I
Also,
never really hear.
can I say this one time, Luis? The they see that we got to stop this propaganda because a lot of people don't look this up and they really don't know it. But the only people that weren't able to have bank accounts and run businesses and stuff like that was married women, because all of your debt was accrued to your husband. If you was a single woman or a widowed woman, you could have a business, a bank account, a house, whatever you needed out in the world. You wouldn't just be stranded out there, no. But if you had a husband, all of your debt will be accrued to your husband. To be honest, that's for the best, because the most consumer debt, women have the most consumer debt now because they get in stuff that they don't really need. So
Hmm.
back then, if you had a credit card, all of your debt will go to your husband and you wouldn't have to owe it. That's to your benefit, not to your deficit. But y'all go on. I apologize.
Yeah, what I wanted to say was when I made the comment about being oppressed. See, I don't think that not being able to necessarily purchase land or have a business is oppression. I think that in this country, we are a progressive society. I think that our country, if I'm not mistaken, we've always had a family dynamic, a family unit. Life is not designed to be lived as a single person, male or female. So this idea that they've implanted in modern women's mind, or women that exist today, that because you don't get to perform and facilitate business, you're oppressed, is nonsense. You're in America. Like, maybe not mid-century or maybe early, we know there was slavery. We talking when there was no chains. We're talking that when there was no dogs, being sicked on you. You're not oppressed. To be in a relationship is not oppression. It's a benefit. A man is an amplifier. And for whatever reason, they've convinced women that you need to get out here and you need to perform to be perceived valuable. The reality is, in my opinion, a lot of women are insecure. And so they believe that they're going to derive value by performing and being seen. And this is one of the biggest issues I see in our community, because you can't even, have men that look like us a lot of times just be successful without him giving credence to the fact that his success was derived from his wife being there, his woman being there. And I just think it speaks to the decay and the cancer in our mindsets a lot of times. But I'll land it there.
Go ahead, Miss Taken. I know you were shaking your head. Is it the stats that Khalil brought up?
Yeah, because I had looked this up before, based on a different conversation a while back, and that is a misnomer that women carry more consumer debt. Men actually do. And if you break it down by category, most women category of debt is typically student loans. They typically carry the higher debt in regards to student loans, not consumer debt. That's all I was gonna say, but y'all can check the facts on that.
All right, go ahead, Luis.
Yeah, but that's still debt, though. Despite of if it's credit card debt, or if it's student loan debt, it's a debt.
No, it doesn't.
It
Oh,
affects your credit score.
yeah. Well,
Medical debt, y'all have
you
higher
have,
medical debt. Y'all, all of it's still
Well, the
debt.
thing is that
you
sorry,
know how you have good
the
debt
thing
and bad debt. So only thing I was speaking to was the comment that women carry more consumer debt. My response to that was no, they do not. Men typically carry higher consumer debt. Women typically carry more student loans.
yeah,
When you're looking
yeah,
at
mistaken
categories
this.
of debt. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to even argue about it, but go ahead.
no, mistaken is totally correct. Mistaken is totally correct. That's due to them having higher incomes and them having more mortgages and auto loans and stuff. But mistaken is correct. I was wrong when I said consumer debt was more on a woman. She got it.
All right,
But
go ahead, Luis.
So does dating get harder for women the more successful and self-aware they become? You know what's always lacking in these conversations when we have these kinds of talks? There's never talked about the character of this man. Is he lazy? Is he ambitious? Does he enjoy working? Does he enjoy being around people? Is he punctual? Is he responsible? Does he have the willingness to learn? I think we all have and possess amazing talents, and sometimes we just haven't tapped into them. People have, and some people have other talents that they have never explored. Sometimes being aligned with the right person brings those things out of, like, hey, I've noticed that you're really good with this. Have you ever considered this? Hey, I can really see you doing this. Like, let's talk about this a little bit further. And they just pull the greatness out of you. They like encourage you or push you to that edge where they make you get out of your own perception and align and see things from their perspective. And you will start to see people kind of blossom little by little, because all it took was to take off the blinders and they see a whole new lane, right? That gap of possibilities. And I think at times when we talk about these things, we don't talk about those other inherent qualities of people or partners or potential partners that show up, where all the money and all that other stuff that comes, that will come, trust me. Like, there's ample opportunity out here. But when you're doing it with the right person and your vision and their vision align, it doesn't matter if you're up or down, different, right? Look, I had a professor in college who was making about 150, and this was back in like '08, '09. And his wife, who was an engineer, mind you, this guy is a civil engineer and an architect. His wife is an engineer. She works for MIT. She was making about 325, 150, 325. Both making six figures, both making really good money for that time period as well, right? Would you label that man less than? I mean, he works in the profession. He's also a college professor. He makes good money. His woman is just fortunate to be in a profession where opportunities had opened up for her, and she's in a posh situation. Doesn't mean that that man is less than, and they work amazing together. He paid for all his children's college education. They made a deal. The woman would take care of all the household and all this other stuff in terms of finance. All his money went to paying for their children's college fund. Their kids went to college, graduated. None of them came out with any debt. All moved on to live prosperous lives and start their own family. And now all the money that he makes freely after he did that goes to him in whatever situation they've set up. But there's a conversation to be had. We're not willing to have that kind of conversation. We're willing to think that that person is less than because they make less than their other partner, in this case, a woman, right? Not understanding the intrinsic value that they have. Because at the end of the day, you can't take any of this stuff with you when you're gone. All that shit stays. Somebody else gets to enjoy it. But you know what remains
So,
is all those memories that you left behind